Well, welcome to another episode of the Robichaux. I'm your host, Chad Robichaux, and I'm excited today to bring to you Eric Stoffers. He's the founder and CEO of BioXcellerator, which is operated in Colombia. We'll talk a little bit more about why they're in Colombia. They're a global leader in stem cell therapy and research. Eric is an international pioneer in the fields of innovation, stem cell therapy and research, health, immunity, and longevity, and just all these really cool new therapies that we're hearing about, especially in the sports world, about people getting stem cell, PRP, all that stuff. Eric's kind of one of the leaders in that field, and has helped so many amazing athletes. Many of the athletes we'll talk about some names you may know from watching UFC and other sports, and they're definitely the innovators behind this stuff. And so, Eric, how you doing today?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on again, Chad. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And right now, you're in Colombia, right?
Yeah, I'm in beautiful Medellin, Colombia. The weather's perfect here. So yeah, happy to be here.
And you were saying the weather's like perfect, consistent year round.
Yeah, well, look, I'm also from Phoenix, Arizona, where the weather in the summertime is not perfect. So for me, it is perfect, but it's around 72 to 82 degrees all year round.
Well, yeah, I'm in Houston, so the Woodlands, Texas, and it's we could use some 70 something degree weather all year round here. But
Right.
so where you at in Colombia? This is where your BioXcellerator is located. The headquarters is. I guess tell us about yourself, about a little bit of background about yourself and BioXcellerator as a company.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so to start, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. So a lot of the conversation that and the words that I choose are not always scientific or medical. But I am the CEO of a life sciences company. We're a stem cell company. BioXcellerator is a stem cell company. We've dedicated our efforts to helping change lives, reduce chronic pain, and many other things I'm sure we'll get into during the course of the show here. But I am a business guy with more of a real estate background and cutting my teeth early in the early years in the restaurant business. And I saw some really incredible testimonials of people being helped, families' lives being changed through the use of stem cell therapy. And it made me leave a real estate career where I was the CEO of a real estate investment trust and transition into starting BioXcellerator so that I could be a part of changing the future of humanity, essentially. I don't want to overstate it, but look, we help people on a daily basis, and that's why I'm here. That's what we do.
Yeah, being an athlete and being from the military, I have both kind of parallel careers in my life. I was, professional MMA fighter, 20 pro fights. I banged up my body a lot through professional MMA fighting and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, competing. And then, I did 8 deployments in Afghanistan. I was, spent over a decade of my life in special operations, jumping out of planes and scuba diving and just wrecking my body and always looking for ways to get healthy. And so stem cell, when I first heard about it, really caught my attention. I remember the fighter Josh Bergman, if UFC fans probably know who Josh Bergman is. He first told me about it and how it was just he was dealing with this elbow injury that just never went away, and then he went and had stem cell done, and how he went down to South America somewhere and got stem cell done, and how it just miraculously changed. It was just like miracle healing. And so I became interested in it and started learning more about it. And the more I ask about it, the more miracle stories I hear. And I mean, even videos of kids with autism and elderly people with Alzheimer's, like these just incredible, miraculous stories of healing. And I think for me, I've kind of learned more from my own research, but maybe for some of the listeners, and I'm sure I'll learn more too from hearing you talk. But what actually is stem cell? What's the science behind it?
So, stem cell therapy is really taking your own body and the stem cell, which is the master cell of your body, of the human body. And we do a lot of very specific, very advanced scientific work in the laboratory to those stem cells. But what we do is we amplify your own body's ability to heal and improve immunity, and promote healing. And it also reduces inflammation, which is one of the keys of success to treating many diseases. Inflammation is your body's response, and it's really the death to all. So it reduces inflammation, modulates the immune system, and promotes healing by using stem cell therapy and very high level scientific work. And I'll take that a little bit further. My company, BioXcellerator, takes that several steps further, and we harness the mesenchymal stem cell from Wharton-Gilly umbilical cord sourcing, which is very ethical. This is not the embryonic, non-ethical sourcing that you might have heard about back in the 2000 era when George Bush did a big speech about it.
We're not talking about aborted babies or anything like that.
No, 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 no. This is healthy moms, healthy babies go home and live healthy lives together. They donate that healthy cord and that safe that cord to scientific companies like ours. Of course, there's rigorous screening long before they donate the cord from family history from both paternal and maternal parents, and then the screening of course the mom, the baby, the cord, long before it gets into our laboratory. So very, very safe, very ethical. We take those cells and we turn those into what we call the golden cells. And that has, again, very specific scientific work with very expensive scientific equipment with, very, very knowledgeable PhDs in the laboratory. But we focus on potency and purity to get those golden cells, which at the end of the day makes for the best efficacy for our patients.
So you take the stem cells from a baby's umbilical cord and inject them intravenously through at the direct site of an injury, or?
Yeah, many, many, many applications. So it's important to understand that stem cell therapy is not really medicine necessarily. It's science, but it's the combination of science and medicine coming together. So it's the science and the application of the medicine. So to your point, Chad, yeah, there's many applications. I think our company is, one of the few that takes it very far into the range of applications that we're able to administer. So we do intravenous applications. We do interarticular applications for joints, intramuscular applications. We do intradermal applications for face and hair. We do intrathecal applications, which is essentially a lumbar puncture to pass the blood-brain barrier through your spinal column for neurological conditions. So yeah, we do many, many, many applications.
You said something that really stuck out to me. And I've heard you say it before. You said it's not stem cell, it's not medicine. And one of the things that I've always had a hard time with medicine is anytime I take medicine to heal something, there's going to be side effects. Every medicine has side effects. And so if stem cell is not medicine, are we by doing stem cell instead of medicine, are we bypassing side effects?
In most cases, yes. I mean, look, it is still a medical treatment with very high level scientific work behind it. And so there's there's no 100% guarantee in anything in life. But the side effects, I'm happy to report, are almost nil, meaning the mesenchymal stem cell that we harness has zero rejection when doing human to human transfer. And really, at the end of the day, it's not even really the allogenic stem cell that we're administering. It's your own body, Chad. It's your body that we're signaling to kickstart, jumpstart, promote, and amplify your own body's ability to fight disease. So just like when you were, out, wrestling or practicing MMA when you were in your teens or 20s, and you had some type of injury and you healed so quickly, maybe the next day, maybe a week. Now, if you had that same injury, or at my age or somebody older, you're down for months, sometimes maybe even longer. It could be career-ending stuff. So that's your own body healing. Those are your stem cells that are able to divide and heal your body more rapidly.
One of the big things I know everyone probably asked. I asked you this. I've asked other people this. Why Colombia? Why not in the U.S.? I'm a little bit of a medical big form conspiracist, probably a lot, if I'm being honest. Like, why do we have to go to Colombia here? Why not in the U.S.? Is it because doctors and big pharmaceutical in America likes to keep people sick? I mean, is this like the cure-all? And if we have it available in America, and it hurts the big pharma's bottom line?
I mean, the short answer, I could give you kind of a half yes to a lot of those questions. But yeah, this is not a cure-all. So first off, I would never represent it as a cure-all. It is a miracle. We're watching and we're helping people on a daily basis here at my company. So it is certainly a miracle. It is certainly helping fight disease, and it's changing a lot of people's lives. But it's not everything to everybody. But to your point, it is very unfortunate that this is not available to U.S. citizens. I'm a U.S. citizen. I live in Arizona most of the time. I would love to go to my local clinic in Scottsdale and be able to be administered this, because it is something that should be used preventatively. I would like to get this, twice a year and just go to my somewhere, right down the street from where I live. But it is not available in the U.S. right now. You will see many companies. There's probably 500 stem cell clinics around the U.S. that are promoting the word stem cell therapy or regenerative medicine. And there are variations that you can receive in the U.S., but it's very low level. It's not something that I would recommend necessarily to my family or friends. In most cases, it's for very low level injuries, and you might see some result. But so for what we administer, the highest level science, the most advanced technology on the planet, that we do have to leave the United States for. And to your point, yeah, there's definitely some factions that would like us to not get this out to the masses, because there are other modalities that are more popular right now. There's surgery and there's drugs, both of which are miracles, right? I mean, I'm not saying we get rid of surgery or drugs,
Sure,
but
sure. I'm just seeing I'm seeing like people, taking their child with autism and or spinal cord injury and things like that, and they're having to pack their kid up or their elderly parent or somebody that's like had these serious injuries. They're having to figure out how to move them, transport them to another country, Colombia, to you guys to do this, and it's like, man, this should be available in the United States. It's safe. It's a proven practice, and it's just so sad and so tragic that it's not in the United States. And I would encourage people listening to talk to your congressman, but talk to your doctor. Let your doctor know that this is something you'd like to see, because I think you said earlier, we were talking offline, this is the people who are going to push this the most and make this happen is the medical field.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, of course, we want our congressmen to talk about it, to start, working through the regulatory process in legislation. And there have been some bills passed that are favorable for the regenerative medicine space and fast tracking clinical trials. But, that doesn't seem to be going fast enough, and it's not getting out to the masses fast enough. What I would say is, to your point, because we talked about it earlier, was, talk to your medical practitioner. Get them on the phone with a good company like ours, and there are a couple of others like us around the world, and let them become educated about what the real technology is, about what we're doing, and how far the technology has advanced, and how many people we can help right now. And hopefully that will trickle down into not only the doctors understanding it, because they weren't taught this in med school. Most of them don't know how far we have advanced. They think it's the future of medicine. They don't understand the future is happening right now. And then hopefully that will trickle down to not only having the doctor recommend to their patient that they at least look into it, but then also trickling down to the FDA, so we can really make some progress.
My friends David Barton and Tim Barton have wrote an incredible new book, The American Story, The Beginnings. You have to get it. It's available right now on wallbuilders.com, or you can go to amazon.com and get it there. Learn the real story of America, starting with Christopher Columbus all the way to the ending of slavery with the 13th Amendment. Today, people are actively trying to rewrite the true American story. So much is being said, intentionally dishonest things are being said, as people are attempting to destroy America by putting out false information. What I love about David Barton, what I've always loved about David Barton, is he doesn't write or speak on theory. He writes and speaks on factual history, and tells history as it is and as it should be told. This book is just a great introduction and crash course through the honest and very well documented telling of American history. And the story of America, by the way, is not a story of a perfect nation or a group of people. Rather, it's a story of a perfect God who used imperfect people to do great things through them to build this country that we live in. It's being attacked right now. There's so much dishonesty being said about our country, so many things that are false being put out there. I believe this book tells the true story of America, the good, the bad, and how we're moving forward. And I think everyone should get a copy of this book. Every American should get a copy of this book to learn the truth. And in fact, not only get a copy, what I did was when I got this book, I called Tim Barton right away and I said, how can I get a case of them? Because I don't want to just have it for myself. I want to give it to some people that I know that would benefit from it. And so get your copy or get a case. The American Story, The Beginnings by Tim and David Barton. Amazing Americans, amazing storytellers through history. And you can get your copy at Amazon.com. You know, for me, a lot of people listening to the show are veterans. Me being a veteran, I've had different types of injuries. I broke my neck in Afghanistan, broke my back earlier on in my career. I've had some pretty significant injuries. Probably have a few TBIs or had some head injuries from both MMA and from military service. One of the things that I dealt with was being diagnosed with PTSD. So I had physical wounds, emotional wounds, spiritual wounds. I'm sure you know, we run an organization called Mighty Oaks Foundation, really believing that Mighty Oaks Foundation deals with the spiritual side of an emotional and spiritual trauma involved in combat. But I believe that there's a place for stem cell to help with TBI, traumatic brain injuries, head injuries, and even some of the aspects of PTSD. And I want to know if you could talk a little bit about that and how this might be a help for veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's something that tugs on my heartstrings. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. Helping veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much for our great country, and veterans from all around the world and their families who have sacrificed for all the countries around the world, are an underserved community. And they are not only just beat up from an orthopedic standpoint, where they have knees and hips and shoulder injuries and God forbid, losing limbs and some of those more severe traumas. But yeah, like the point you're bringing up, Chad, is that the traumatic brain injury is running rampant through the veteran community. It is going undiagnosed or misdiagnosed in many cases, which leads to sometimes a misdiagnosis of PTSD. Sometimes it's the combination of both. And this is unfortunately one of those ailments that is not only affecting a big majority of the community, but it's also doesn't have really a great way to combat and treat. And when we're getting this diagnosis, just having PTSD, and it becomes a psychological issue, well, now they're not getting treated for the inflammation in the brain and some of the other traumatic experiences that the brain has occurred. So what our company has done is we've pioneered a protocol that allows us to pass the blood-brain barrier with stem cell therapy, specifically target the brain and the inflammation in the brain. And we are watching veterans have great results with many of our therapies. And we're working with great organizations that focus on veterans. And I think you and I are going to have more specific talks on how we can partner with your organization to help as many veterans as possible. And we give back to our veterans. So it's not about creating a bigger bottom line for us. In a lot of cases, we give these therapies to our veterans just to see them get better.
Yeah, and I can attest to just from working with you that you guys are good in your word with that. And I think a lot of people don't understand what has happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. When I first went to Afghanistan in 2003, that's when I didn't even know what an IED was before. I mean, this IED thing, everybody's in the military is kind of familiar with roadside bombs and improvised explosive devices now, but back in early on in Iraq and Afghanistan, they didn't exist. And we found out the hard way when our vehicles started driving over roadside bombs, and immediately, because of softer vehicles and not up armored vehicles, our guys were being killed right away. They hit a roadside bomb, everyone in the vehicle was dead for the most part, and then we reacted to that by up armoring vehicles, and we have these vehicles like Max Pros that are just like bomb bunkers with wheels, and because of that, we've saved a lot of lives by guys being able to drive over IEDs. They're have these race car seatbelts in these things. Boom, the IED goes off. You get rattled around inside there, but what you don't realize happens as your limbs stay attached and you don't bleed out or get any physical injuries on the surface, is your brain got rattled around inside your skull in there. And so many guys are later on, they're survived an IED, they get home, they're starting to have memory problems and all these other issues that are related to that traumatic brain injury that happened because they survived the IED because of this amazing technology in our up-armored vehicles now. And so this is a really big problem. And after 20 years of war, we have so many veterans who are at home dealing with traumatic brain injuries. Many of them don't even know what they are, that they have them. And like you said, misdiagnosing PTSD for TBI or a combination of both. And, I don't think there's a lot of experimental therapies out there and what actually is helping these guys, like, things like, saturating the brain with oxygen and things like that. But, I think, stem cell is definitely a way to actually get into the brain and heal those injuries within the brain.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you bring up it's a funny point for me because I live in Colombia part-time and I am a US citizen. And I think the United States is one of the most efficient countries in the world. We figure stuff out. And to your point, when you had softer and not as heavily armored vehicles, we were losing a lot of lives. And we learned from that, and we created new technologies, and we expanded on that, and we're very efficient and technologically advanced. But we're not always doing the same thing in medicine. This is where we're falling behind, and it drives me crazy. I was saying, I live down in Colombia, and sometimes I joke about it, and it's little things at the restaurant that I say, yeah, we figured that out in the US 20 years ago. Why can't you figure it out here? But in medicine and in technology, we are falling behind. And so we have techniques right now that will at least help. It might not, again, like I said earlier, it's not a cure-all, but it's certainly something that is advanced, and it is a therapy that should be used in combination with other therapies that can help our veterans, because thank God we're saving their lives, but they're suffering from a lot worse in some cases because living with traumatic brain injury just continues to get worse for them and their families.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, that's probably the extreme. Maybe people listening are like, well, I don't have a traumatic brain injury or anything like that. But, as we get older, we have so many parts. Our body starts falling apart. That's part of aging. And especially, for those of us who have done sports. And I know you guys help so many athletes. I think like Henry Cejudo, UFC champion, Frank Mir, who, I've had on this show, is one of the guys you take care of. Some other big names that people might recognize that you've had down there?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, we've had many, many champions. If you look around Bellator and the UFC and you see people with a belt that are champions, most likely they've been here. But Kamaru Usman, the current UFC champion, you mentioned Henry Cejudo. We've had former champs like Chuck Liddell, Matt Hughes, all champions. In Bellator, we have Chris Cyborg, probably the baddest female who has ever walked the earth. She's a champ in 4 different promotions, including the UFC at one time, and many, many others. I could go on for days, but yeah, many UFC guys, also NFL. So people that are in high impact sports seem to understand that they're getting beat up, not just from an orthopedic issue, but from a potential CTE issue, traumatic brain injury issue. So they're being proactive. That's what I would implore all of our athletes to do, especially high impact athletes, but also just regular everyday citizens, people that as you start aging, you notice that, hey, maybe my cognitive abilities aren't what they used to. We have a lot of very smart people, doctors, lawyers, high functioning people that are coming to us to have the same treatments that these UFC fighters are getting, just to make sure that they have their cognitive abilities as they get into their advanced years.
Wow, yeah, that's preventative. This is, we have a saying in jiu-jitsu: ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Mm-hmm. So and one of the things that I think I've always wondered, and maybe you could help answer this for me, is the difference between some of these therapies we hear about, stem cell, intravenous stem cell, PRP, Prolo. What are the difference between those, and does BioXcellerator do you guys do all those treatments there? Or is it?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely something that sets us apart from other real stem cell clinics. We take a more integrative and holistic approach
So
to the
it's not an
therapy.
either or thing, right? It's not an either or.
No, no. Unfortunately, you'll see a lot of stem cell clinics, certainly in the U.S., but even some of the good ones around the world, and there are others. But even they, in most cases, just are laser focused on stem cell, and that's fine. That's what they're good at, and I understand that. But what we know and what we try to educate our patients about is that it isn't just a pharmacological model where you take a shot and the pain goes away. Because in the pharmacological model, typically you're only treating the symptoms, not the systemic root cause. We at least get to the systemic root cause, but we also, to your point, integrate other therapies. So we have hyperbaric chamber oxygen therapy that is very important to our protocol. We have bioregulatory medication that we administer for sometimes months in advance of seeing our patients. And we certainly recommend it as a protocol for the rest of your life in some cases. So yeah, we take an integrative approach. And to your question, PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma, is something that you see a lot in the United States, and it's something that is more on the legal side in the United States. It is taking your own essentially blood from a simple IV draw, and then taking those platelets, and I'm putting this again in simplistic terms, but putting it into a centrifuge, which changes the viscosity of the platelets. The thicker platelets are more rich in the plasma that we want to focus on the repair and the growth factors. And so then you just repurpose that into an infected area or, into a joint. And we take that light years ahead of what you see in the United States. We have something that we call BioX gel that is much more scientifically advanced. It just concentrates the platelets a little bit more heavily. It also creates somewhat of a fibrin matrix so that we know that it stays in the area that we're treating. And again, the doctors will tell you 1,000 other reasons why it may or may not be better, but we use those therapies as well. I think it is back to your question.
How often does is it a one-time? Somebody goes to Colombia. Is it a one-time trip? Is it that's come back twice a year? I'm sure it's different for everyone, but what's some normal things that people see?
Yeah, it's different for everyone. We would certainly love it to be a one and done therapy. That's not typically the case because we're seeing people with very advanced conditions, especially when we're seeing our professional athletes that have major orthopedic injuries and have been beat up, like in your case, for years and years and years. So typically we're treating very advanced conditions, and in those cases, especially when we're talking about spinal cord injuries, there's nothing worse in my opinion than seeing somebody that has a healthy great life and then is immediately changed in one traumatic instant. And so for people in those conditions, it is a multiple treatment protocol, multiple years. For spinal cord injury, that's the rest of their life. They're going to be on some type of treatment protocol, whether it's stem cell and a combination of physical therapy. But that's the rest of their life. But back to your question, for most patients that, especially people that want to be proactive, yeah, I would implore you to do this once a year, because one of my moonshot goals is to make 100 years old feel like 60. And to do that and to accomplish that, you have to be educating yourself about the most advanced therapies, and you have to be proactive. So you have to get after it before it gets after you and you're already injured.
I'm a little backwards on that. My 45 feels like 60.
Yeah, well,
but I still get out there and get it done every day on the mats, and but sometimes I'm suffering through it. I think testimony, or I'm a person of faith, so I use the word testimony. I use maybe a different word would be story, somebody's personal story. It's the best way to communicate anything, and I'm sure you have plenty of them. But could you share, like maybe your favorite story or of someone that's came there and just had their life transformed through this technology?
Yeah, I'll tell you about Nicholas Seedsman because you have such a veteran community that may be listening. Nicholas was a veteran. He was I think he did 18 tours, but he's an Australian vet. He's a special forces guy, so he was very high up in seeing action. And so he was beat up, much as you've talked about. I would say that he has a story similar in being beat up, because he was an athlete, before, and he also had a lot of traumatic brain injury. So he had symptoms that were mimicking PTSD, and it might have been a combination of both. But so, he was starting to decline psychologically, not just because of the combat that he saw, but because of the injuries that he sustained. And they were all just kind of intertwining, and really he was seeing a quick decline. And it turned into autoimmune problems. He was having major illness every year, multiple times a year. He wasn't able to heal from small injuries. And so that kind of spiraled into even worse mental decline. And so he was, and these are his words, he said he was suicidal. He didn't think he was going to live past the next year. And stem cell therapy was his last ditch effort. He said, I'll give it one more shot, because he had tried everything. He had been to doctors all around the world, not just in Australia, in his home country, but all around the world. He had traveled to find results and something to treat him. He wasn't finding it. He found BioXcellerator, luckily. And I say that because he's made, in his words, a 100% improvement. He's now he hasn't been sick in years. He says, he did get COVID. So he got COVID, but he said he knew COVID would have killed him if he hadn't had stem cells beforehand. His orthopedic pain has reduced by 80-90%. In some cases, 100%, depending on, he had so much, he had knees, shoulders, hips, everything. And so those are the kind of stories that I love hearing every day. And then I hear very, very bizarre stories, in the sense that we get a lot of people that have lost hope, and they're suffering from rare disease. I was just at dinner last night with a guy that he had a wisdom tooth pulled by a first-year dentist that was incorrectly done, where it created major nerve damage. And so for the last 10 years, his jaw and face have been on fire on a daily basis. And he was at the point of decline, because he just couldn't deal with the pain anymore. And he had been to doctors all around the United States. This is a US citizen, telling him that there's nothing they could do. He had multiple surgeries. And he even got stem cell therapy in the United States. And after 6 months, had zero pain reduction because of the stem cell he received in the US. So he came to BioXcellerator 2 months ago. Within the last 30 days, he is at zero pain, his words at dinner last night. So super excited to hear stories about it.
Wow. Yeah. See, first of all, that's why we don't like dentists. And so I know one likes dentists.
Me either, for sure.
But at least there's a cure, stem cell. Go down to Colombia and go to BioXcellerator. So all amazing stuff. I plan on going down there to visit you guys. I mean, so you have not only my endorsement, but I'm going to be down there to Colombia and try to get my body back healthy. And so I'm looking forward to that. But obviously, this is BioXcellerator's company. It's available to everyone. How do people get more information? If someone's in need of the services you guys have at BioXcellerator, how do they get down to Colombia and get started with you guys?
Well, we take a very consultative and comprehensive approach to health, like I mentioned before, with the integrative medicine. But as far as finding us, look us up online. We're bioaccelerator.com. It's spelled BIOX and then CELL. And the rest you just sounded out, but it's bioaccelerator.com. We're very heavily on social media, so you'll find an Instagram page, YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn. Please find us there, educate yourself. And then as far as the process, we make it very easy for you. We go to work working with your doctors, communicating about your medical records. We even help you through the process to get down to Colombia. And it turns out to be a really cool vacation for most people, because most of the procedures are somewhat non-invasive. I mean, it's still a medical procedure, but it's non-invasive enough in most cases to where you can do some sightseeing. Medellin, Colombia is a beautiful city. Like I said before, the weather's perfect. There's really cool things to do here. And we hold your hand throughout the whole process. So it's very white glove. I would implore you to check us out. We'd love to have you down here.
Couple of days, weeks. How long are you down for normally?
Yeah, good question. So if you're just here for rejuvenation, we have a lot of people that are taking more of a preventative approach. We can shorten the trip down and condense it for just kind of in and out healthy people. But if you're treating anything on the more severe side, what we like to do is have you down here for the whole week. So it's a 5-day treatment protocol. Come down, start your treatment on Monday, leave on you're finished on Friday. In between there, we have events for you to do to kind of break up the monotony. But it's every day for 5 days. We're seeing you for several hours a day because, as I mentioned, it's not just a shot like some other clinics are doing. We're taking a full approach to your health. So we might have you in physical therapy. We might have you in the hyperbaric chamber. We're going to be administering bioregulatory medication and many, many other modalities in there, depending on what we're treating.
Awesome, Eric. Eric Stoffers, everyone, BioXcellerator, the world leader in personalized stem cell therapy and research. Go check them out, BioXcellerator.com, and as well as on social media. Eric, it's great to have you on again. I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon, and I look forward to getting down there and seeing you.
Yeah, I look forward to having you here, Chad. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.